The views expressed on this program do not necessarily represent those of Revive FM or its management.
Hello, good afternoon. You are locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. And today in the studio, I have some special guests here with me today from a startup, a brand new business organization called Reframd. Two co-founders, Ackeem Ngwenya and Shariff Vreugd. I hope I said the surname correctly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We are live.
Cool. Very good.
And glad and really glad to have you both here. We are live, so people can stream and watch us. But I think the best part of it all is that we can, it can be repeated and watched again, and we can share it with our network. So welcome to the show, guys. How's things on your side of the world? Where are you today?
We're in Berlin. It's quite nice, I think. Sunny.
But windy.
But windy, yeah. The same here. It's the sun's out, but I still feel cold. But I'm the kind of person that tends to feel the cold easily anyway.
I think same here. Getting better though. Yeah, but generally quite sensitive to the cold as well.
So guys, what happened was I saw an article and some information about you, I believe on LinkedIn. And straight away, I was just completely intrigued. I think it was a post that Ackeem had put up or somebody had shared about Reframd, saying that you guys were making glasses specifically for Black people. That jumped out at me straight away because as a person of color, as a woman, as a Black woman, I know that within my community, people complain about when they buy glasses because of the structure of their face, their nose bridge, that very often it doesn't fit, or there's a gap, or there's a problem. So when I heard about your business, I was just like, wow, this is amazing, this is awesome. And I just thought it was fantastic. So it would be lovely to you guys to introduce yourself and just a little bit about Reframd and how it all came about.
Cool, thank you. So I'm Ackeem. I'm a Berlin-based product designer from South Africa. Yeah, well, I guess then maybe Shariff.
Yes, so Shariff, Berlin-based as well. From Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Living in Berlin for 3 years almost, and met Ackeem on an African food festival here in Berlin, where he showcased me some prototypes of the frames that he developed. I was super interested in his story. Fast forward a couple of months later, we actually incorporated Reframd together.
Yep. Indeed.
That's how the partnership emerged. And so tell me, what was the inspiration, backstory? How did this light bulb go off in your head, Ackeem? What's the story behind?
Right. I think it was actually a series of events leading up to, as you said, the eureka moment. That I'd always felt somewhat uncomfortable with wearing glasses, sunglasses in particular, in the sense that I felt that they didn't really fit me very well. And so I would wear something, but then if I looked in the mirror, I just thought like, okay, not good. And so I would take it off and assume that maybe I just wasn't made for glasses, if you could put it in that sense. But after some time and through a series of these moments, I began sort of to question whether it was really me that was the problem or it was the product that was just not made for my face. And I think with this questioning, that the moment came like, okay, it perhaps isn't me that is the problem. And I think from that moment on, I externalized the issue and began to think of it in a different way. But moving from that eureka moment to the point where you actually start working on the concept and as a possible business idea? Of course, it took some time, but I think that is the initial seed in my mind.
Brilliant. And when you heard about the business, Shariff, when you had this encounter with Ackeem, when you were in this space and you met, what were your first thoughts? What was going through your mind when he showed you the prototype, and as a black man yourself, how did you feel?
Well, when he showed me the prototype, it was nothing much yet, but the moment I put them on, I figured out that this might be the most comfortable pair of frames that I'm actually wearing. And considering it was just a prototype, but just the fit was something that I never felt before. And also I was wearing glasses, especially like I remember in primary school I was wearing glasses, but after some hours I just didn't continue wearing them because it was just uncomfortable on my nose bridge. That's a memory I still have about a negative memory about glasses. And when Ackeem showed me, or when I actually tried them on, I thought if I had those glasses in primary school, most likely I would still wear frames now.
Yeah, it's about comfortability. It's about how they look. I mean, people spend thousands and hundreds of pounds, and I mean, I'm a big diversity inclusion advocate. I think you both know that. And for me, it's like, why should anybody have to take the short end of the stick? Just because they haven't been accounted for, they haven't been included in the design or
Yeah.
thought about as part of society and productivity, right? So how far along are things now with the brand?
We are actually quite far. I think most of the product development, as far as the glasses are concerned, I think quite done. We are launching a Kickstarter campaign in about a month or so. And with that, essentially, we're also launching our product, our first collection. And some of the money raised for the Kickstarter campaign will go towards our development of this face measuring software. I think we should be able to probably send frames to our customers or supporters in this case, probably by the end of summer. So yeah, I think quite fun.
All right, there. That sounds great. It's how long have you been going now? When did from sort of conceptual idea stage until this moment?
Right. Well, so the initial idea itself was, I think, 5 years ago or so. But I was working on something else at the time, and I think towards the end of mid 2019, that's when I had time again to sort of explore concepts or ideas that I had in the past. And I began casually working on it for some time then until the end of 2019, when I thought I would go to the African Food Festival in Berlin, as Shariff mentioned. So I think more serious effort on Reframd began, I think, sometime in May 2020. So yeah, almost a year. Yeah, correct, Shariff?
Yeah, it's definitely correct. Yeah.
Are there anybody? I mean, I looked into it and I couldn't find anyone else specifically looking out for people, black or ethnic backgrounds. Is anyone else doing the same thing or a similar?
There are some brands that offer an Asian fit, but that's more like they're doing it on the side. So the companies that offer that don't really have a real focus, and that's the only thing we found. If you look at black people, I would say no. You have a lot of black-owned eyewear brands, but they still use the same design standards. So in that case, we think we're actually an eyewear pioneer.
Yes, yeah, I definitely see you guys as pioneers, you know, and that brings me on to sort of the next thing that I'd like to talk to you about, which is entrepreneurship. Let's get frank. Let's really be transparent about entrepreneurship. It sounds glamorous, you know, it looks glamorous, and having your own business, you know, seems to make people perk up and be celebrated. This is wonderful. But let's be really frank, it's tough, right?
It's very hard. It's maybe like building Reframd, I think will be one of the hardest thing I will do in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with Shariff 100%, especially at the beginning where everything is very dynamic and uncertain, and becomes even more difficult with if you don't have a financial support for what you're doing. So I think to be able to actually build a business, or probably any business, it requires a significant amount of investment. And if most of that money is coming from your own pocket, it becomes twice as difficult. So I think the glamour that you mentioned, I think it's part of the startup world where things seem like I don't know, you have an idea and then next month you are a millionaire and then after that you're a billionaire. But I think for probably 99% of startups, the actual process is just this long grinding and this perseverance that is required, self-motivation and the belief and ambition that you can do something. But yeah, it is hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you said that, you know, you're bootstrapping and you're starting, and like you said, motivation, resilience. There's so many things mentally as well that you have to do to keep yourself going. Did you get any investment? I know that's another thing, isn't it, in the Black or ethnic community or otherwise, you know, getting investment, having accessibility, having networks and connections into communities where we can get a leg up and support. How have you found that, and how have you found the support from the eyewear community in general?
Yeah, I think
eyewear business community, should I say?
we really haven't got that much support from the eyewear community, but it's also not that we've been looking for that. I think in general we've been looking for the startup community here in Berlin. We got a pre-seed investment from Berlin Founders Fund, and that's an organization here in Berlin that supports talented entrepreneurs with their idea. So they offer you a grant so you can focus a whole year long on your company. And the funny thing about the application process is that at the end, after reading the application process and at the end of the application, it said apply especially if you're a woman or person of color, something like that. And that's why I applied. So it's quite interesting because I have seen this this application before, but when I read that, I was like, okay, the chances might be bigger for us to be successful.
Yeah, and I think there's also we also received some money from a European grant that also enabled us or gave us the flexibility to spend money on prototyping, and actually that money has been quite useful. But I think in general, for startups that are founded by, I think, people of color, in general, or Black and whatever category we can assume, the statistics are not very good. Is that founders are very low in the first place, but also the people that are in positions to invest in such startups are also, or rather the composition of the investors with regards to demographic of race. They're very low, let's say, a proportion of that. So if we assume that people tend to invest or support in people that look like them, then it becomes quite difficult to attract funding. But of course, there is also the argument that if an idea is a great idea, an investor will invest in it, irrespective of who that person is. But that is not often. It often overlooks the reality, I guess, and it often overlooks the bias that every person has, whether it is intentional or otherwise. So I think, yeah, it is a process, and I think for us in general, it's just an issue of trying again, because going back to the question that starting a business is a difficult process. A huge part of the startup experience is that you receive you have a lot of failures, and you have a lot of rejections, and especially with regards to investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got all the faith in your product. Honestly, I believe in Reframd, and I think, Shariff, what you were saying was that it looks like the government were trying to, where they know there hasn't been inclusivity, they were trying to give opportunities to people that were Black or women, because that's where the disparity is. And Ackeem, you were just reaffirming how much it takes, and how about the investment opportunities that you got. However, that doesn't take away the fact that it's been very, 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 very difficult. I'll be coming to a little bit of that conversation. We are going to go into a very short commercial. Please do not hang up. Don't turn your cameras off or go anywhere. There's just going to be a short commercial break, and we will be right back. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
क्या आपको मालूम है कि नूरा जैसी बच्चियां पानी के लिए रोजाना 3 मील पैदल सफर तय करती हैं? मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन को यकीन है कि आप छोटे और बड़े पैमाने पर पानी के मंसूबे लगाकर इस बहरान को खत्म कर सकते हैं। आपके एहतियात दुनिया भर के पसमानदा लोगों का म्यार जिंदगी बेहतर बना रहे हैं, जबकि अभी बहुत कुछ करना बाकी है। पानी सबके लिए के प्रोजेक्ट में हमारी मदद कीजिए। आज ही अतिया कीजिए या हमारी वेबसाइट विजिट करें www.minhajwelfare.org।
अब हर कोई हफ्ते में 2 बार मुफ्त कोविड-19 टेस्ट कर सकता है। आधे घंटे के अंदर नताइज आपके सामने। इससे ये पता चलता है कि आप अपने प्यारों की हिफाजत के लिए जो कर सकते हैं वो कर रहे हैं। आपके दोस्त, आपके साथ काम करने वाले साथी और आपकी जिंदगी में फिर से आगे बढ़ने की ख्वाहिश। अंदाजन 3 में से 1 शख्स ऐसा है जिसमें बज़ाहिर कोविड-19 की कोई अलामत दिखाई नहीं देती, मगर अनजाने में वो उसे फैला रहा है। वो आपका कोई दोस्त, रिश्तेदार, काम का साथी या आप खुद भी हो सकते हैं। रैपिड टेस्ट बहुत आसानी से nhs.uk/get-tested से मिल सकते हैं। आइए ये अगला कदम बहुत मोहतात होकर उठाएं।
Thinking about selling or letting your home? With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are specialists in residential sales and lettings. We manage over 200 properties in and around Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated with all the latest laws and legislations. Based in Edgware, our experienced specialist negotiators always ensure we maximize the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk. Alternatively, contact our sales team now on 079 44 56 5616. That's 079 44 56 5616.
Now we're gradually coming out of lockdown. We can meet up outside in groups of up to 6 or 2 households. Have friends round for a drink in the garden. There you are, doing your bit, keeping a safe distance. When it starts to get dark and a little chilly, and suddenly your lounge looks very warm and inviting. But don't forget, you're much safer in the fresh air because COVID-19 particles are blown away. Let's take this next step safely. Remember, Hands, face, space, and fresh air.
The Career Link project is a free employment and career service aimed at supporting young BAME women to navigate a path towards a successful future. If you're 16 or over and currently out of work, you could receive up to 10 months of personalised one-on-one career support and skills-based training to help you secure your future. Get in touch with us today on 07862 035 511 or email us at clp@tffn.co.uk. The Career Link project, your future in your hands.
With over 40 years experience in the industry, Plachette Carpets is the place to go for all your carpets, laminates, linos and wood flooring. We have an established network of suppliers, which means we can offer some of the best prices in town. We offer free estimates, free measurements and now even free fitting. Call us now on 0208 472 8568 or visit us at 157 Plachette Road, Upton Park, London, E13 0QZ.
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile
and online.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome back. You are locked into the Power Hour on Revive FM 94.0 with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. And today in the studio, I have Ackeem Ngwenya and Shariff Vreugd. And they are in the studio with me today and they are co-founders for a brand called Reframd, specifically creating eyewear for Black people. So welcome back to the show, both of you. I'm glad to have you here. And before the break, we were speaking about resilience, entrepreneurship. We're speaking about how you got started, so the funding you received, and I was asking you about support from the eyewear community as well. So I'd just like to ask, in terms of the funding, I think you were just, Ackeem was giving me some context around that being quite difficult. How did you find it as Black founders, right? Going and did you find that information readily available, or did you just have to go and look to see where can we go? Because quite often what people find from Black and ethnic minorities, they're not from that community. So what happens is that they have to go the extra mile to find and seek the information in the first instance. So I just wanted to just revisit that a little tiny bit before the break. And the process in itself you found okay, but of course you had to go and kind of find this funding, didn't you?
Yes, exactly. So I don't think that finding investors is difficult.
Yes.
But I think especially like the convincing part of the process is a different game. For example, Ackeem and I, we know there are a lot of investors. But the second question is, will they invest in Reframd? That's something else. But there's a lot of information available online.
Yes.
Sometimes it just takes some time to find the right resources. But I do believe that if you really want to find something, you will be able to find it. There are a lot of online meetups, Twitter. There's so much information out there. So yeah, definitely.
And in terms of Ackeem and I had a conversation when I was very interested in your brand, because I was trying to find out about the testing side of it. The frame in general. I think what we found was that it's mostly created around sort of like a European shaped face, the prototype. So most people that buy glasses will very often, that very often find that perhaps it doesn't fit in a perfect way. And obviously, and earlier on, you was talking about how much Shariff was saying when he tried the glasses and he met you, how much more comfortable they was, and him being at school and not, really disliking glasses because actually being in pain. And my son wears glasses, and when I think about it now, he's 7 and he has like a space here, so the glass is not really made for him.
Yep. I think it's actually also twice as difficult when it comes to children too. I think it's since children grow so fast and they change often. I think there is an even greater need for children to have the right fitting glasses, especially if they are prescription glasses. I think there's a greater need for any person wearing prescription glasses to have frames that are actually made appropriately for them, because that affects your eyesight. So I think we at least for us, it's something that is also quite something we are exploring as well with regards to offering for children as well. But yeah, I guess with regards to sorry, I'm trying to recall my train of thought with respect to your question. But maybe I can just say that for children, I think it's also a much more difficult issue or problem. But
I agree. I think children are always growing and their face are changing. So perhaps it'll be a little bit more. You have to change them more often as well, and as the description changes, perhaps as well.
Yeah, I think also maybe in response to that, actually our frames, at least the design of the bridge of our frames is actually more fitting for children, because generally children also have a lower and wider bridge. So actually our frame should fit children by default better than the standard frames. But there are still brands out there that make frames especially for children for this particular reason.
So tell me, where is Reframd in the future? In an ideal world, and thinking of Reframd a year, 2 from now. Where are you in the market? I mean, I'd like to see your brand in the UK, in the high street. In these big stores we have here where people buy glasses, like we have Boots, we have Specsavers, we have all different kinds of brands where people go to buy the glasses. Oh, and I think there was something I remember from our conversation, Ackeem, I'd love to talk about. You said to me that most of even if they're designer, right? This is really important, vital information, and I'll be sharing this with our LinkedIn community after we've done the recording.
Yeah.
You shared with me that even the designer brands go to one or two specific eyewear manufacturers, right? So there are a few eyewear manufacturers monopolizing the demographic. If you could just go into that would be good.
So I would probably not say manufacturer as such, but rather the eyewear industry to a large extent is, let's say, the most influential brands. So if you think of Ray-Ban, Gucci, they are either owned or controlled by one giant company. I think previously it was called Luxottica, but it's now EssilorLuxottica. So I think a merger of a French and Italian company. And between these two, they control almost any brand that you can think about. And if you think that, maybe 50% of the eyewear industry is controlled by one entity, and the composition of this entity is also uniform in its, let's say, who's in charge of that body. Therefore, any product that comes from that body, or any derivative product of that body, will have traces of the biases of those people. And we can assume that Luxottica as a brand, as a company, I think if you think of the executive body of Luxottica, whoever makes the decisions is very similar, or the people they are inherently older white men. I'm speaking under correction, but that's my assumption. And the products that are produced, they are, of course, the eyewear in the standard person for the eyewear industry is also, or the standard nose for the eyewear industry. It is Caucasian nose profile.
Yeah.
So if there is no diversity within this body, and there is no, let's say, sensitivity that other people are different, and therefore they might need products developed differently let's say, to satisfy that sensitivity. Then you tend to have products that are inherently similar, or products that do not acknowledge the differences in people, I think. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a vital part of this interview, of this conversation. Shariff, tell me, or Ackeem, what are the community saying? You're right, the Black community, within your network. What's the feedback that you're getting? Family, friends, wider community, customers. What is it that they're saying?
The feedback is general quite positive, actually very positive. People are happy that they've been seen finally. People were thinking that they had a problem, like Ackeem said, with their facial structure, not knowing that it's based on the design of the frames and that it has nothing to do with their faces. So people are extremely happy finally that they've been heard and that there's something paying attention to their needs and problems.
Yeah, and I think one of the comments that we had, or rather one of the feedbacks we had, was a person saying when she was younger, she wished she had a different nose so that she could fit into eyewear products. And if you think of the impact that has on a person, to think that I wish I was different so that I could fit into such products. I think our approach, where we're saying, okay, we would like to build products that fit people rather than the other way around. So yeah, we've had quite good responses. In Brazil, it's actually been really good. Of course, the UK as well, and we also had some responses from Japan as well. So yeah, I think it's really, really good. Of course, the responses, and for us, it is just an issue of communication, getting the word out there, essentially.
This is great. I remember buying a pair of I think there was about £300 once, Bulgari glasses in Miami. I don't know. I thought, let me treat myself. I'm in Miami, right? But when I think about it now, I don't think those glasses fit me properly. I'm so happy to have these Bulgari glasses. So I can imagine that, you've just got such fantastic response. And it isn't just the Black community. I'm thinking about lots of different communities around the world where the face shape and structure is opposite to a Caucasian structure, and that would benefit just as much from using your product as well.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned, Japan and people of East Asian descent. Maybe again, not every Black person, not every person of East Asian descent has this problem, but the more than average of the people have nose profiles that are not Caucasian nose profiles, and therefore it stands to reason that these groups of people should have products that should also be made for them. And that's what we're seeing as well in the responses and the feedback that we get. That people say, okay, great, I also have this problem. I may not be a Black person, I may not be an East Asian person, but I still have this problem too. Will your product also address me? And which is, I think, for us, quite interesting.
I love this, and one of the things that I like the most about speaking to entrepreneurs and speaking to people in business, especially when I market that information out to my network after we've interviewed, is attaching, the backstory a little bit about the people, right? So I'd like to get a little bit away from like where you are now with Reframd, to find out on a personal basis about you. You said that you are from South Africa, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
just to just know a little bit about you, about who Ackeem is, and you know what brought you from South Africa to Germany, and yeah, whereabouts in South Africa are you from? I'd love to go to South Africa. I love house music, the house music
Aha.
of South Africa,
Yep.
my favorite.
Yes. So my family background, I think, starts from Malawi, and then South Africa, and we used to live in Johannesburg. I think when I was primary school, and before primary school, Johannesburg, and then we moved down to Cape Town, where I finished, where I did high school and university. Yeah, and in terms of what brought me from South Africa to Germany, I came for an exchange program in 2009 in Germany, and I think I had a really good time. Then it was a new experience in terms of the world of design for me. But I also happened to meet my now girlfriend in I think then in 2009. And when I returned to South Africa and went to London to do my master's, and when it became a possibility for me to actually choose to go to any place in the world, I think that maybe is something that I don't know, it's fortunate that I could choose that I want to go there because my education and all these other qualifications allows me, this gives me an easier access in terms of migration to these countries. So yeah, I guess we would say love and work. And I love Berlin. It's an exciting city. It's very creative, sometimes weird, but yeah.
I'd like to ask you: do you have any memory of apartheid for South Africa?
Oh, yeah. In terms of I think I was quite young when I was in South Africa. I think, as I said, from Malawi to South Africa. So I don't have a direct memory of apartheid South Africa, but I have recollections of, maybe you could say, discrimination, racism. So in terms of structural apartheid, not as much. Yeah, so I think one of the, I don't know whether I would call it memory of apartheid, but when I moved or when I'd gone to the university in Stellenbosch, which is previously a very Afrikaner university, one of the first things that came up amongst my circle of first years was a discussion that Black people do not invent stuff or have not invented anything. And this is something that it's how do you say, it's not a very good experience. And this person did not invent anything either. They are claiming to have invented something based on purely on accidental connection to someone else. So I'm not going to take credit for someone else's invention just because they happen to be Black. I mean, that doesn't quite work. So I think for me, some experiences like those are the ones that I remember most. I think by the time that I had active memories, I think a lot of work in terms of the liberation or the end of apartheid had already been done.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I love the love story about coming to Germany. but also I would like to kind of, I'm thinking about South Africa, and I would presume, right, that growing up or in a place like South Africa, by the time you got to Europe, even though you had encountered that very difficult discrimination at uni, you'd built up some resilience. You had already been exposed to such this disparity, and I hope he was able to re-educate the people that had presumed and assumed that Black people hadn't, because they're of their unconscious bias and just not having information, I hope that he was able to, of course it was offensive. And I think the best thing to do when we come across these situations is to really educate people about having an open mind about other people from different parts of the world. What about yourself? If you can just hold for me, we have to take a very short break, right? Because this show finishes just before 5:00, and they're going to be waving at me there in the back of the studio. So do not touch the dial. We've got about another 10 minutes, and then I'll get on to you, Shariff. Okay, you are locked into the Power on Revive FM. Do not touch that dial.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk or contact our sales team now on 07944 565616. That's 07944 565616. Advertise with Revive FM.
Thinking about selling or letting your home? With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are specialists in residential sales and lettings. We manage over 200 properties in and around Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated with all the latest laws and legislations. Based in Edgware, our experienced specialist negotiators always ensure we maximize the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
अब हर कोई हफ्ते में 2 बार मुफ्त कोविड-19 टेस्ट कर सकता है। आधे घंटे के अंदर नताइज आपके सामने। इससे ये पता चलता है कि आप अपने प्यारों की हिफाजत के लिए जो कर सकते हैं वो कर रहे हैं। आपके दोस्त, आपके साथ काम करने वाले साथी और आपकी जिंदगी में फिर से आगे बढ़ने की ख्वाहिश। अंदाजन 3 में से 1 शख्स ऐसा है जिसमें बज़ाहिर कोविड-19 की कोई अलामत दिखाई नहीं देती, मगर अनजाने में वो उसे फैला रहा है। वो आपका कोई दोस्त, रिश्तेदार, काम का साथी या आप खुद भी हो सकते हैं। रैपिड टेस्ट बहुत आसानी से nhs.uk/get-tested से मिल सकते हैं। आइए ये अगला कदम बहुत मोहतात होकर उठाएं।
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Hello and welcome back to Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. I am in the studio with Reframd, with Ackeem and Shariff. We are in the last 10 minutes of the show. So I was just asking them about their backstory, and Ackeem was speaking about his journey from Malawi into South Africa, from South Africa into Europe, leading into love and making glasses, right? So it's making eyewear for Black people. This is such an amazing journey. And what about yourself, Shariff?
I think my story is not as interesting as the one from Ackeem. So I'm from Amsterdam. My parents are from Suriname, and Suriname is the smallest country in South America. Also the only place where you can speak Dutch in South America. It was a former Dutch colony, and they got independent somewhere in the 70s. And also after independence, that's the moment where my parents and many Surinamese people actually migrated from Suriname to the Netherlands.
Right.
So I grew up in Amsterdam, studied there, met my German girlfriend in Amsterdam, and eventually settled in Berlin. If you would have asked me actually if I would ever live in Berlin 5 years ago, I would have not believed you. I visited Berlin once and it was cool, but Berlin for me personally I didn't know anything about Germany. What I do know is that I had 2 different companies in Amsterdam, and if you look in Europe at the startup ecosystem, Berlin is definitely one of the best places in Europe to start a company. So when I moved to Berlin in 2018, I think, I went to Berlin for a job offer that I got. But I always had in the back of my mind, like, it would be amazing to start a company here, not knowing that I would meet Ackeem 1.5 years later. But that was always like in the back of my head, because this is still an amazing place where amazing things are happening. Lots of creative people, like Ackeem already said. It's a super international city, sometimes a bit weird, but that's just Berlin. No, it's a cool place.
That's great. I've always Suriname is somewhere that I've always seen on the map. I've never met anybody from Suriname before, so today is my first anniversary, my first week. So welcome.
That's amazing.
My first Surinamese.
Yeah, exactly, Surinamese.
Surinamese, right? So my first Surinamese encounter. So this is and actually it is interesting because I didn't know that it was a Dutch colony, and yeah, I had no idea. And yeah, it's really good to hear a little bit about Suriname. Did you say it's off of Brazil?
Yeah, it's Brazil is below. It's also, I think it's touching even the Amazon as well. We have a little bit of Amazon rainforest as well, Suriname.
Oh, right. So the people that live in Suriname, are they all different ethnicities?
Yeah, it's a super diverse place. We have Indonesian people, we have Indian people, we have Chinese people, and you have black people as well. So yeah, it's really a melting pot of different cultures and food and music, and yeah, that's it's super cool.
That's great. So how what's lockdown like over there? I mean, obviously, what first of all, what was lockdown like for business, and how are you guys bearing up now? You coming out? I mean, in the UK, where we're coming out now.
Yeah, unfortunately, the I don't know, the vaccination approach of the German government has not been, I don't know, as how do you say? I don't want to say anything political. It's not been as good as I don't know whether good or not as the British approach. So we are not out of lockdown. I think there's still restrictions, but I think since it's now beginning of we are in spring and the weather is changing, people are just going out. In any case, I think at some point the infection rate had gone up again, and therefore new measures were put in. Cutas were locked down, and especially for me as a parent, that means that our daughter is more at home, and since we are all working, my girlfriend and I are working from home. That becomes more difficult in terms of managing who's working when, and looking after the child and making sure no one is stressed. Yeah, so in that respect, I think the impact of the pandemic on kindergartens and therefore the parents of the children in kindergarten, I think that has been the most significant impact on me personally and my girlfriend.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's easing up a little. You guys are still at home, juggling, working from home. They've opened things up here, but not
nice.
But, yeah, we've got access to the shop, but we can't dine. Like we can't eat food from inside. We have to eat outside. We're not able to meet like with all our family and friends on the inside yet. They have a plan for that in May. And the idea is that by June, the 21st, I believe it is, that's when it will open up, as far as we know, without restriction or so as many restrictions, so to speak. So as we are starting to wrap up the show, it'd be really good if you could share with the listeners, and I will be editing part of this for our LinkedIn community, right? But if you could just share where people can access your information, reach out to you individually, reach out to you on your website, how they get hold of your glasses, you know, all of that very, very important information.
So, of course, reframd.com. It's our website, and I would suggest people to sign up for our newsletter. That's where we keep people informed about the progress and about things we're up to. Also, if you want to see some more lifestyle content, Instagram is @reframd. And our personal LinkedIn accounts are my first and last name, Shariff Vreugd. Same for Ackeem. And also make sure to follow and like our business page on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. That's great. And remind us of when the Kickstarter campaign starts?
Yeah, that's on the 25th of May. And it will be running for a month. So if anyone is interested in our product, as Shariff said, join our mailing list, and then we'll inform people just before the launch. Yeah, yes. The 25th of May is the time for us.
Brilliant. And I will send you the link for this show so that you can share it amongst your community as well. And we'll have an edited version for LinkedIn as well. Thank you ever so much, both of you, for joining me internationally. If I come to Germany, I'll be looking forward to having a coffee with you both and seeing you face to face.
Please do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic
Yes,
weekend.
thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you
Have a
you
good
both.
weekend too.
Thank you ever so much. You have been locked into the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. I have had Reframd in the studio live with Ackeem and Shariff, and we'll be back the same time, same place next week. Take care.
Thank you.